DJ Spark here with another album review, and today I'm reviewing Joey Badass's 2000 album. After being delayed for a few weeks, 2000 finally drops today. This is a follow-up to Joey's 1999 album, which was released about a decade ago and is an absolute hip-hop classic. So as one of the best pure raw hip-hop artists in today's game, I had huge expectations going into this project. The album starts off with a song called The Baddest featuring Diddy, where Diddy basically introduces Joey, kind of acts as his hype man. Joey starts out the album with definitely some braggadocious hip-hop. You know, he says he's the greatest, and he knows that him and Cole and K-Dot are the three best rappers out there right now. And usually when a rapper says this kind of stuff, it does get a little corny, but in Joey's case, he's just telling the truth. He's probably right about that. But between the first four songs, The Baddest, Make Me Feel Where I Belong, and especially Brand New 9/11, we definitely hear some very jazz influenced production to these songs. And that's great because I love when hip hop is extremely jazz influenced. I mean, the two just go hand in hand with one another. Now, the song Where I Belong is definitely much more gritty. It definitely sounds like a Griselda rapper could go on it, and in my opinion, it's one of the stronger cuts on the record. And as far as the production for the rest of the album, which really starts with Cruise Control, which is the fifth track. So from Cruise Control to the end of the album, the style is definitely more like velvety smooth and more like 70s, 80s R&B influence. The production gets much more soulful while still keeping those old school, nostalgic, emotional vibes that we hear from Joey. Now, Statik Selektah actually produced a lot of this album. And if you're not familiar with Statik Selektah, I honestly put him in, the tier of Madlib and Alchemist when it comes to hip hop production. So it's not a surprise that a lot of the production on this album is top tier. Now, we do have other production credits on the album, of course, and there's one that actually blew my mind, which is Mike Will made it on Cruise Control. I was very surprised about that because it's not your typical club banger that Mike Will made it produces. But you also have names like Eric the Architect, Chuck Strangers, amongst other names providing those jazzy R&B touches throughout the rest of the project. Lyrically speaking, I think this is one of, if not Joey's most introspective project, and he's not as conscious or politically driven on this album as some previous albums, especially like All American Badass, which is honestly a bit refreshing for me because I thoroughly enjoy introspective and storytelling hip-hop. It is my favorite type of hip-hop, and we see this especially on songs like Eulogy, Head High, and Survivor's Guilt. These tracks not only provide bars, but emotions and feelings that you don't get from a lot of hip-hop these days. I think Survivor's Guilt is a great cut about Capital Steez and Joey's cousin, Junior B, and of course how they've passed on and how he feels some sort of survivor's guilt for that, but that really just shows how much he's grown and how humble he still is. And I really appreciate and respect Joey for opening up about these memories and feelings of loved ones that have passed on. It's never easy to go through that, and let alone make music and talk about that to the public. And Eulogy is another track that I absolutely love, saying, how our generation is overdosing on blue pills and living in the Matrix, and just how we're not seeing, what's real, basically. And that we have to spread love because there's a lot of hatred out there. And to hear that coming from Joey Badass is another thing I really appreciate about him. He keeps it real, and I think that's a big reason why people really enjoy his music. You do have this middle section of the project, right, where it is very soulful and more relationship themed. You have a few songs like Welcome Back, Show Me, and Wanna Be Loved, and you have some great features in there like Chris Brown, Capella, Gray, and Jid. These features don't disappoint. I think they all have their place. They fit right into the production and sound really well with Joey Badass. I honestly never thought that I would hear a Chris Brown feature on a Joey Badass song, but it honestly sounded really good. And it's always interesting to hear Joey talk about love, sex, heartbreak, relationship stuff rather than introspective hip-hop. Not saying that relationship stuff isn't introspective, but they do fall more in the category of quote-unquote love songs. And he still has a great tone of voice and great delivery for these tracks. I do think the weakest feature on the album was Larry June on One of Us. I think on that particular track, someone like a Benny the Butcher or Conway the Machine might have sounded better on it, or maybe even just another verse from Joey Badass. Sidebar, we've seen throughout this album some 3-verse songs, so the 3-verse in hip-hop is not dead yet. He wraps up the project with Written in the Stars, and he has Diddy on this song once again on the intro and the outro, kind of hyping up Joey again. This song is more or less a freestyle, I guess, not off the top of the dome, but just one verse that's free of style. You know, rapping about how it was fate that he got to this point, some braggadocious bars, he's the leader of his generation, he's a seasoned vet, etc., etc. I think overall there are a lot of quotables throughout the project. I think there were just a pinch amount of bars that were maybe a bit surface level or corny for someone like Joey Badass. He says, "My stock like a teenage, it stays up." I mean, like, come on. But everyone's going to have lines like that throughout a project. No one's perfect, you know, but in Joey's case, of course, this was a bit more humorous as he even chuckles after the line. I would say that this project isn't as old school as 1999 was, but it does have some more modern production mixed with that R&B like I was talking about earlier. So if you like that velvety smooth production, then you're definitely going to enjoy this album. And either way, it still gives us those nostalgic and vintage vibes that we go to Joey Badass for. Again, I like that he stays humble throughout the project. You know, it's not always about the money and making it big. You know, he talks about the life he left behind, loved ones that have passed away, and that's just not easy. It kind of gave me like a he gets it. This guy gets it type of vibe. I think lyrically you can tell that Joey has gotten wiser and that he's grown throughout the last decade. But I think sonically, I don't know if it's a better project than 1999. It might be, but it's still fantastic. I think Joey's pure skills do get better throughout time though. But my favorite songs on the project were Where I Belong, Brand New 9/11, Eulogy, Wanna Be Loved, Head High, and Survivor's Guilt. What were your favorite tracks on the album? Let me know in the comments below. And did you love this album? Did you think it was good? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments and why you think so. I appreciate you for coming by. Hit a like and subscribe to the channel if you love talking music, making music, and listening to music just as much as I do. Follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram at EJSpark1, and as always, you know what it is. It's peace, love, I love s'mores. EJ, out.